And so we invited them to share some of their story with you. So the first thing I'm going to ask them to do is introduce yourself, tell us your name, your grade, how long have you been in our district, and then tell us one thing you're involved in, like one club or something that you're involved in or a hobby. Okay?
Hi, good evening. My name is Aron Olegnowitz Jr. I'm a junior here at the high school, and I've been a student of Mason since kindergarten, so that's 11 plus years. I'm involved with the orchestra here at the high school, and I really enjoy playing the viola.
Hi, I'm Corrine Mattigley. I'm a senior at the high school. I've been going to Mason since I was in kindergarten, and I'm involved in the drama club.
Hi, I'm Liberty Messer. I'm a junior. I've been going here my whole life, and something I'm involved in is Comments in Action.
Hi, I'm Chloe Scott. I'm the one with pigtails. I'm a senior. I've been going to Mason since kindergarten, and I'm involved in Mason Young Life.
Hi, my name's Francesca Wehr. I'm a junior here at the high school, and I've been going here since first grade. And I'm involved with the band, including the marching band here.
Hi. Hold on. Hi, I'm Diego Ortiz. I'm a junior here, and I've been going to Mason since third grade. Good while. And I'm involved in WizKids, which I tutor some third graders at Western Road.
If you could join me really quickly, just give them a hand for being here tonight and being a part of our panel. Thank you so much. We want you to know that your ideas are the most important ideas. So it's really, we're just so grateful that you're here to share those. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us. So my first question for you, now that you've given us your introduction, is if you would give us advice. You've all been in Mason City Schools for quite a while, and we're here to reimagine, and we're trying to think big and dream. Could you just, before we get too far down that pathway, could you tell us something that you would say, this has been great in Mason City Schools, this one piece of the experience I would advise you to keep? Keep this experience because it's been really important to maybe you personally, or you know that your friend group has really appreciated this piece of the experience here at Mason City Schools. Does that make sense?
I think definitely one part that from here that Mason is a blessing is all the variety of classes that we have, like anything from ceramics to like working with Adobe Illustrator in our technology classes. I seriously think that's a blessing for this place.
I believe that with our middle school and intermediate schools, how we have teams and classes where the teachers are grouped together, so the students are only going to 2 or 3 teachers a day is really helpful, because then they can build closer relationships with those teachers, which I feel is really important in classroom communication and learning.
Teacher Academy for me has been the biggest blessing at Mason. It gives me the opportunity to know what I want to do before I go to college, and being placed in an internship where I can go into classrooms. Like right now I'm in a preschool class where I'm pretty much a student teacher, and that has given me the opportunity to be prepared for college and know what I want to study.
For me, mine's the opportunity that we get to have with the special ed program, and just hanging out with those kids and getting to know them, and being their peer is really awesome, because it's helped me figure out what I want to do with my life, so it's cool.
I think we have tons of super cool opportunities to learn specialized things at the high school, and I think that's a huge blessing, just so we can learn skills that maybe we wouldn't otherwise get to learn if we didn't go to Mason.
Yeah, definitely. Something I'm very thankful for here at Mason is the variety of the classes, as my other fellow students said. If you're interested in design, we have that. You can check it out. If you're interested in biomedical science, you can check that out. Engineering, that's also a route. There's a wide variety of social studies courses, that's also a route. And of course, there's a teaching opportunity. So if you're interested in that, we happen to have that as well.
So to build on that idea, because I did hear some themes here about a variety of courses and courses that were preparing you for the next step, whether they're experiential courses or courses that are just relevant and interesting to you, or specialized, I think is the words that you used. The next question is really going beyond that now. So those are things that you want us to keep, and that's that flavor that you want to keep here. How can we either, one, build upon that and expand, or something that we may not have considered yet that you think, boy, if you really want to create the perfect experience for the future for Mason City kids coming in here, what would those ideas be? So some ideas that maybe you've tossed around, or specialty pathways that maybe we haven't thought of. And it doesn't just have to be here at the high school. Maybe it's something that happened in the elementary or middle school that you'd like to highlight that we could do more of or do a better job of.
Thank you. Yeah. Something that I actually missed from middle school, I guess I didn't realize what I had until I lost it coming to the high school, was the opportunity to spend half of your lunch at some sort of recess or getting up and walking around. Yeah, I think that's very important to clear your mind physically as much as it is a mental aspect. And of course, that's optional. So if you want to continue eating lunch, you can. That's how it works at the middle school, as far as I remember. But here, that option is very limited. You can sit in the cafeteria, and that's about it. It's hard to leave also and walk around. So that's definitely something to consider.
I think one thing is we have lots of clubs and we have lots of classes, but a lot of our clubs and sports teams are exclusive and competitive, and I think if there was a way to maybe have intramural teams, or if there was a way just for kids to be, they don't have to compete to get on the team, but just to be in a fun environment with their friends and competing together, I think would be really awesome.
I think just pushing more like the specialized courses, like not being like you have to take this exact path just like every other high schooler, but more being like, hey, if you want to, like, we want to teach, so we want to do the teaching classes. If you want to be an engineer, take engineering classes, because I just feel like we're pushed more towards generalized than we are specialized.
Yeah, going off what Liberty's saying, and more of not taking so many hard courses that where every night you're going home and all night all you're doing is homework, and spending so much time like worrying about if you're taking enough hard courses, if you're going to be ahead enough and like have the highest GPA in your class.
Well, one thing that sparked the conversation to bring Mr. Cooper into our classroom was a documentary that we watched called Most Likely to Succeed. And in this documentary, the school district that the documentary followed, a lot of the classes were combined. Like there was a humanities class that kind of combined history and English, and I feel like something like that would be very interesting, is not just like a extracurricular, but literally like combined like English 4 and world history or whatever, to create a curriculum that actually makes students want to pursue things that they like in the classroom, and push to build a better way so that students want to learn, not just that they're being forced to learn these certain concepts.
I feel like I'd agree with what Chloe and Liberty said. Like, we should try to push specialization, especially like if at this stage of life we know what we want to be outside of high school. Like if we want to go to a 4-year college or like trade school and go into the workforce or the military, like we should offer some kind of more specialization opportunities for those of us who do know what we want to do after high school.
Thank you so much. So we've talked a lot about advice for either specialized courses or academic courses or that pathway. Do you mind taking just a second to talk even beyond that now, beyond the classroom, and just talk about the experience a little bit more? Maybe, and I know you mentioned, you talked a little bit about the recess, kind of some downtime maybe. Are there other ideas like that, like the downtime during a lunch to just kind of clear your mind, as you mentioned, or other ideas like that that we may not be thinking about that we should be thinking about that would create an experience that would make you every day wake up and say, I really love coming to Mason Middle School. I love coming to Mason Intermediate. I love it because, yes, academics are rigorous and they're great in specialized courses, but I love it because of these things as well. And speak a little bit to our culture and maybe some of the behaviors that you would like to see maybe more of.
Well, regarding the culture, I feel like a lot of like I feel like in our district we have like this sort of a concentration on competition and like this sort of overbearing amount on competition that stresses out a few of our students. Well, a lot of our students. No. But I think we should definitely, like what Aron said, like we should definitely have some kind of downtime during lunch, like maybe walk around, talk to some people in the hallway, have some kind of friendly banter that could just take our minds off the school day a little bit.
Well, I feel to be able to understand Mason's culture, we have to understand the cultures of those who are within the school district. So to get to know about like the different like ethnic groups that are here, and I know that we're doing work with like Mason Inclusion Club and things like that. But I think that everybody having the opportunity to learn about their fellow peers and how their home situations are and how they differ from us really would help us to be able to see why they think that norms are acceptable where maybe we don't, and how to create something in the middle ground where everybody feels like their norms are being accepted.
We were presented a new bell schedule today, and we like watched a video about it. And something that I really liked in it was having like this free bell where we would have homeroom, and then we'd have like a collaborative time where we would turn our old computer labs into like lounges and like have just like 30 minutes to ourselves of non-academics in the middle of the school day, where it just be a relaxing time where we can recoup for the rest of the bells of the day, which I think is a great idea, and will allow students to just have time to rest.
Yeah, and going off what Chloe said, I definitely think the whole collaborative time is really awesome, and I think it'd be like a good opportunity for us to build better relationships with our teachers, just because we only see them for 50 minutes a day, and we have 7 teachers, so that's 7 relationships. But on top of that, they have however many students that they have in a day, and so I think it's just hard to build relationships, but using that time to have a relationship with your teacher, so when you go for college essays or anything else, it's not awkward, and like you actually have a relationship and you know them.
I think about the collaborative time and the recess time. I think it's super important for kids to have a space at school where they feel safe and they feel like what they are doing is important to them, not just to like the numbers for the district. And so I think having a space where even just like a study hall where they can just focus on themselves is so important to their mental health and just like in general to their well-being.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with all those things strongly. I didn't watch the video today, actually, but the idea of lounges and rooms set aside for the specific purpose of regaining mental stability, I think that's very important. It can be seen as a haven within school, which students will look forward to, again, because the beauty of it is that it's built into the school day, as opposed to like having to take another period of the day, because I mean we're here for like 7 hours already, so enjoying some of it other than half an hour would be ideal. And that leads me to something very important, which is the homework situation and the mentality people have for studying. Like personally, I didn't believe this at first, but I have friends who like they get home and they work. Sometimes they'll eat dinner with their families. At my house, we always eat dinner together. And they'll keep working until the AM hours. I didn't believe that until I was in group chats for schoolwork, and they were sending messages at 2, 3 in the morning. I thought that was outrageous, honestly. So something that adults could do in that respect would be if they see the student or their child is just obsessively working and appearing that the work has no end, maybe like influence them to take a break, like read a book, go out for a walk, listen to music, because that could just be revitalizing in the nightly process that is studying and getting ready for the next day, where when as soon as you get to school you're reminded of like, oh, this is because the feeling is it's a competition. And if you're not constantly dedicating all your energy towards school, you must be doing something wrong, so that has to change.
wise kids, when we have super wise kids giving us great advice. So write these things down, because helping us think through this as adults is key. And that leads us into kind of our final question. I want to make a couple comments about what you said. You heard them mention a new bell schedule. The teachers have worked diligently together to collaborate around a bell schedule that not only helps us think a little differently here at the high school, but it also allowed us to get to a better situation with our start time at another building. So it really was a collaborative effort. They rolled that out. I did watch the video last night. You should watch it. It's not too bad. Actually make some funny little goofy jokes in there as well that you'll like. And but the idea behind it is they're trying to build in student voice to the development of what happens during the collaboration or connection or homeroom time or whatever we're going to call that. And so our teachers are really trying to crowdsource the ideas from our students. And just to hear what you were saying tonight, those are the ideas that our teachers want to hear, to build that in and really work with you as a partner and co-creating that experience and do a better job at that. You also mentioned just the competitive nature. That is something that's come up in a lot of our conversations. It comes up in our administrator conversations. It comes up in our parent conversations, that it's concerning to all of us that we have created such a culture of competition that the stress and anxiety and depression is landing so heavily on our youth today. And so that is something that we take serious and something that we'll continue to have open conversations around. And it's definitely on front of mind, I know, as our leaders talk a lot about what we can be doing to help. So continue to talk to us about that and keep us posted on if we're even bending the trend at all and moving in the right direction. And that's really where your teachers started to come up with that different schedule. Some of that is coming from that. So let's lead to the last question, because you had mentioned some advice for parents and for adults. So the last question is really, what advice do you have for us in here, or those that are watching along in video? What advice do you have in terms of what do we need to be thinking like? Like, help us get outside of our adult minds for a minute, because we are creatures of habit, and we do a lot of things. We think a certain way. We've been conditioned to think a certain way. And for us to get curious and creative, we need to be challenged a little bit. So if you could give us some advice as adults, what can we do to get out of the way at times and to help you and help us to create a better experience over time for Mason students? Does that make sense? And if you have any really big ideas that we haven't given you a chance to share, your really big idea, like, you know, it'd be the best thing ever if we just did this. We had an ice cream machine back there, and every Wednesday it would just give free, whatever. But just give us whatever big idea you might have. You can share that as well. Okay?
Yeah, the nice part about a lot of the problems that pervade today is that you don't really have to come up with a solution. You simply have to change the way you look at things. For instance, the positive reinforcement from the adults to students can be as simple as, my AP US history teacher did this last year at the beginning of the year. She said, it's an uphill battle, you know, it's a plight, but we're going to get through this. And she used we, as in saying that she's with us. It's our plight, a common plight. And that can start from the home also, because our parents work like tirelessly all day, a lot of the times through the night. Life isn't easy for anybody. So just acknowledging that and building a sense of trust, like, we're in this together, we're going to get through it together, that can go far, far.
So something that I was talking to Mrs. Blamer about earlier today was looking at Maslow over Bloom's. So the people over the content that they're learning. And I think that's super important when you're in a classroom setting. There are kids who are being recognized because they're the president of NHS and they're the president of like such and such, and they're super involved in everything. They're winning student of the month. There are kids who are being recognized for that, and they're like the same kids over and over. And then there are the kids who are getting in trouble with the administrators over and over. And they know that the administrators know who they are. All of them do. But there is a whole group of kids who are just middle of the pack, and they won't raise alarms for being super smart or for getting in trouble, because they're good. They're just not good enough to be recognized for those things. And I think it's super important that we recognize those kids and let them know that they are good enough and they do matter in our school.
Another thing, kind of piggybacking off Corinne's, was making sure that we know, like, we're not numbers. So something I talked to Blamer and actually my mom last night about was knowing, like, we ourselves are people. But okay, and my dad. But we ourselves are people before we're numbers, and so, like, a lot of times junior year you are what your ACT score is. So whether that's a 36 or a 20 or anything in between, like, that's who you're defined as, and that's what you're seen as between students and between administrators, or at least that's what we feel. And so making it known that we are people before you see the grade, a number, the ACT score, whatever it is, like, making that known to us.
Going off of all of that, it wasn't until last year until I realized that getting a B wasn't the end of the world. And that was in my my AP comp class, when my comp teacher told me that C's get degrees. I was like, nope, only A's. And so we're, like, just allowing students to feel comfortable with settling with a B, even, like, you working your hardest to get that grade, and, like, knowing that if that's the best that you can do, like, that's equal to 100% for someone else.
So going a little bit off of what Liberty said, with you need to look at the student as a whole person. I believe the same is true for teachers and administrators, that we need to see them as people and not just these, beings who contain all the knowledge who are going to give it to us. They're people too. When Mr. Cooper came to talk to our class in TA, he shared with us something very personal, pretty much to start off the conversation, and that made the room shift, and that made it more comfortable so that we could share our personal beliefs. So just seeing teachers is more than just, oh, this is my pre-calc teacher, he knows how to do trig functions. Seeing him as a person would really help to make sure that we are learning the best that we can.
Yeah, like how everyone said this before me. I'd like for this district to stress just personal relations between student, teacher, student to student, maybe even teacher to teacher, who knows. But I think that this district might have a slight problem with just looking at numbers before the students first. And I would definitely encourage, well, mostly all the adults here to, like, have a little more compassion, because I know that adults work probably just as hard, maybe even harder than the students here. That I would encourage to use just compassion and try to link spiritually to everyone around you, because we're all fragile human beings. Like, we're not computers. We're souls. We have feelings. Each and every one of us.
To piggyback off what Diego said, it made me think of something, is, like, making it known to your kids that, like, nothing good happens after midnight. So, like, your homework, it's not going to be good if you're doing it past midnight. Like, the world will still revolve tomorrow. And so Corrine and I are in Hope Squad, and it's something that we talk about a lot, is, like, you need to put yourself mentally ahead of, like, whatever classes you're taking, because at the end of the day, you're not going to do yourself any good staying past midnight. So either way, it's either going to be really bad, or you're just not going to do it at all. And so just making it known, like, the world will still revolve. It's all as well. You're going to be fine if you don't always do every single ounce of homework.